We live in interesting times for the headlines. U.S. President Donald Trump postpones a planned visit to Denmark after Danish officials insists its autonomous territory of Greenland was not for sale. Disgraced Cardinal George Pell loses his appeal against child sex abuse convictions, prompting relief from those who fought to bring one of the Catholic Church's most powerful men to justice. An employee of Britain's consulate in Hong Kong who went missing earlier this month is being held in China, Beijing confirmed. The incident comes as relations between Britain and China have become strained over what Beijing calls London's interference in pro-democracy protests that have racked Hong Kong for 3 months. And President Duterte issued a stern warning to foreign vessels passing through Philippine waters without clearance from the government. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us, and now to the news. It's back to jail for Catholic Cardinal George Pell. His landmark appeal against convictions for child sex abuse was rejected. Pell is the world's most senior Catholic convicted of child sex abuse. A former Vatican treasurer, Pell had been trying to overturn the verdicts and 6-year sentence for sexually assaulting 2 13-year-old choir boys at a Melbourne cathedral in the 1990s.
Having reviewed the whole of the evidence, 2 of the judges of the Court of Appeal, Justice Maxwell, President of the Court of Appeal, and I, have decided that it was open to the jury to be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Cardinal Pell was guilty of the offences charged.
After the hearing, Pell was taken away to continue serving his sentence on 1 count of sexual penetration of a child and 4 counts of committing an indecent act with a child.
This is a big win, a huge win. So we're wrapped.
What do you think? By picking on him because he's a priest, he's the third down.
Catholic schools need to remove confession boxes from the schools.
Turns out there is a God. Now go get the Catholic Church. Don't let them do this again.
Because there are a lot of people still out there who are suffering, but today gives them hope.
I am relieved by the decision of the Court of Appeal. It is 4 years since I reported to the police. The criminal process has been stressful. The journey has taken me to places that, in my darkest moments, I feared I would not return from. Some commentators have suggested that I reported to the police somehow for my own personal gain. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have risked my privacy, my health, my well-being, and my family. I have not instructed any solicitor in relation to a claim for compensation. This is not about money, and it never has been. Some commentators have suggested that somehow I am out to cause damage to the Catholic Church. I am not on a mission to do anybody any harm. Although my faith has taken a battering, it is still a part of my life and a part of the lives of my loved ones. I am not an advocate. You wouldn't know my name. I am not a champion for the cause of sexual abuse survivors, although I am glad that those advocates are out there, but that is not my path. My journey has not been an easy one. It has been all the more stressful because it involved a high-profile figure. I am grateful for a legal system that everyone can believe in, where everybody is equal before the law and nobody is above the law.
In March, Pell was sentenced to 6 years in jail for committing 5 sex offenses against 2 13-year-old choir boys at St. Patrick's Cathedral when he was the Archbishop of Melbourne more than 20 years ago. He appealed the convictions in June. Pell's primary ground of appeal was there was insufficient evidence for the jury to be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that he was guilty. But during Pell's trial, under a court-ordered veil of secrecy, the Vatican gradually removed him from top church bodies with little explanation. Shortly after his conviction, Pell was removed from the so-called C9 Council of Cardinals that are effectively the Pope's cabinet and inner circle of advisors. The Vatican later dropped him as the church's finance chief and launched its own probe in February. To other news now, an employee of Britain's consulate in Hong Kong who went missing earlier this month is being held in China, Beijing confirmed today. The 28-year-old is a trade and investment officer at the UK's consulate in Hong Kong. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang told a regular press briefing the detained man had been placed in administrative detention for 15 days as punishment by Shenzhen police for breaking a public security law. The incident comes as relations between Britain and China have become strained over what Beijing calls London's interference in pro-democracy protests that have racked Hong Kong for 3 months now. Simon Cheng is his name, and he traveled to Shenzhen, a megacity on the China-Hong Kong border, for a one-day business meeting on August 8. Now that night, Cheng returned via high-speed train and sent messages to his girlfriend as he was about to go through customs. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang said the employee was from Hong Kong and therefore the issue was an internal matter. The ongoing protests have raised fears of a Chinese crackdown. The unrest was initially triggered by a controversial law that would have allowed extradition to the mainland, but has since broadened into a call for wider democratic reforms. Beijing has repeatedly warned Britain, the former colonial ruler of Hong Kong, against any interference in the protests, which erupted 11 weeks ago and have seen millions of people hit the streets calling for democratic reforms. With Beijing attempting to shape the narrative of the unrest in Hong Kong, Chinese authorities have increased their inspections at the Shenzhen border, including checking the phones and devices of some passengers for photos of the protests. The mainland metropolis of Shenzhen sits behind China's Great Firewall, which restricts access to news and information, while Hong Kong enjoys liberties unseen on the mainland. Now, China promised to respect the freedoms in the semi-autonomous territory after its handover from Britain in 1997, including freedom of speech, unfettered access to the internet, and an independent judiciary. In other news, President Duterte issued a warning to foreign vessels passing through Philippine waters without clearance from the government. He said the Philippines could go as far as enforcing the order in an unfriendly manner. Presidential spokesman and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo said all foreign vessels must first get the clearance from the proper government authority before their actual passage.
Either they comply in a friendly manner, or we will enforce it in an unfriendly manner. It means that we'll have to stop them and tell them to move out.
Military forces.
Well, if it will have to take that, we will do it. There has been repeated passing through without our being notified by some foreign vessels. Well, particularly the Chinese warships. When you perform acts repeatedly, then it's about time to tell them stop. We're saying that we will enforce it in an unfriendly manner. By that, it means that we will ask them to move out of the place. That's unfriendly. Because before we never said anything, we just allow them and we just make protests. But this time we will tell them, please get out of our territorial waters.
Now, this comes after a Chinese Coast Guard vessel was spotted by the military in Ayungin Shoal, which is within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. also said that he has also ordered the Department of Foreign Affairs to lodge a diplomatic protest over the intrusion of Chinese warships in the country's waters. Appearing before the Senate Foreign Relations panel on Monday, he said the government will keep lodging protests as often as intrusions are made. Based on Lorenzana's report, the Chinese warships passed through Philippine territory at Sibuti Strait in Tawi-Tawi last August, and then twice more in July, at all times without giving prior notice to Philippine authorities. China blasted a huge planned U.S. arms shipment to self-ruled Taiwan and threatened to sanction firms involved in the sale of F-16 fighter jets. The U.S. State Department on Tuesday approved the transfer of 66 Lockheed Martin-built F-16 fighter jets to Taiwan in an $8 billion deal following another huge military hardware sale agreed just last month. Now, the deals come as ties between Washington and Beijing are already strained by a punitive multi-billion-dollar trade war rather.
中方对此坚决反对，已经向美方提出了严正的交涉和抗议。中方将采取一切必要措施维护自身利益，包括对参与此次售台武器的美国公司实施制裁。
China views Taiwan as part of its territory and has vowed to one day seize it by force if necessary. It bristles at any countries that might lend Taiwan diplomatic support or legitimacy. U.S. President Donald Trump postponed a planned visit to Denmark. This after Danish officials insisted its autonomous territory of Greenland was not for sale. Based on Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's comments that she would have no interest in discussing the purchase of Greenland, I will be postponing our meeting scheduled in 2 weeks for another time, Trump tweeted. During a Sunday visit to Greenland, the largest island on Earth, Frederiksen called Trump's idea absurd. The Prime Minister was able to save a great deal of expense and effort for both the United States and Denmark by being so direct, Trump tweeted. And I thank her for that and look forward to rescheduling something in the future. The president's latest Greenland comments sparked a strong reaction from both sides of the political aisle in Denmark. Reality transcends imagination. This man is unpredictable, said Morten Østergaard of the Social Liberal Party, which is part of the ruling coalition. For no reason, Trump assures that an autonomous part of our country is for sale, then insultingly cancels visit that everybody was preparing for, tweeted Rasmus Harloff, a member of the opposition Conservative Party. Are parts of the U.S. for sale? Alaska, please show more respect. President Trump was invited on an official state visit by the Queen of Denmark. White House Deputy Press Secretary Judd Deere confirmed that the entire trip was canceled. On Sunday, Trump confirmed his interest in buying Greenland, but said it was not a priority for his administration.
So the concept came up, and I said certainly strategically it's interesting, and we'd be interested, but we'll talk to them a little bit. It's not number one on the burner, I can tell you that.
Now, the next day, President Trump jokingly promised that he would not build one of his eponymous hotels in Greenland, tweeting a meme depicting the Golden Trump International Hotel Las Vegas towering over modest primary coloring houses or colored houses along a rocky coast. I promised not to do this to Greenland, he wrote, and then the meme first appeared on Twitter Thursday with the caption, "Greenland in 10 years." Now, Greenland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs insisted on Friday the island was ready to talk business, but was not for sale. So did the Prime Minister of Denmark.
Jamen, Grønland er selvfølgelig ikke til salg, og jeg kan læne mig fuldstændig op af Kim Kielsens udtalelser, og i øvrigt er Grønland altså ikke Danmark, så det er slet ikke et anliggende for os, men selvfølgelig er Grønland ikke til salg.
Meanwhile, President Trump said at the White House that he was unmoved by Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's tearful account of visiting her Palestinian family in Jerusalem as a child. Now, this was delivered during a press conference where she and Representative Ilhan Omar discussed their aborted trip to Israel and the West Bank.
To lead with the tears. All of a sudden, she starts with tears. And I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second, because I've seen her in a very vicious mood at campaign rallies, my campaign rallies, before she was a congresswoman. I said, who is that? And I saw a woman that was violent and vicious and out of control, and all of a sudden I see this person who's crying because she can't see her grandmother. She could see her grandmother. They gave her permission to see her grandmother, but she grandstanded and she didn't want to do it. So that's a decision of Israel. That's not a lot of people are saying that was my decision. That's a decision of Israel. They can let them in if they want, but I don't think they want to. When you read the things that they've said about Israel, how bad, and if you look at their itinerary before they found out, you take a look at their itinerary, that was all going to be a propaganda tour against Israel. So I don't blame Israel for doing what they did. I have nothing to do with it, but I don't blame them for doing what they did. I think it would have been very bad to let them in.
Palestinian-American lawmaker Rashida Tlaib on Friday turned down Israel's offer to let her visit her grandmother in the occupied West Bank, owing to restrictions she termed oppressive. It was the latest twist in a saga hinging on Israel's war against those who would boycott it over its treatment of the Palestinians. On Thursday, Israel barred from entry the U.S. Congress' first Muslim female lawmakers, Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, on the grounds that they support the boycott movement, and after President Trump urged the Jewish state to block the two Democrats. To other news now, India's Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft entered lunar orbit on Tuesday, executing one of the trickiest maneuvers on its historic mission to the moon. After 4 weeks in space, the craft completed its lunar orbit insertion as planned, according to the Indian Space Research Organization in a statement. Take a look. Launched from Sriharikota in southern India on a 100% Indian rocket, Chandrayaan-2, meaning lunar vehicle in Sanskrit, is heading for the unexplored part of the moon, its south pole. It should be arriving at the beginning of September 2019 after a 380,000-kilometer voyage. Once it's in lunar orbit 100 kilometers above the surface, the spacecraft will send a lander on a controlled descent to the surface. The lander will then release a 6-wheeled solar-powered rover that will cover about 200 meters of lunar territory. The aim of the 14-day mission to examine the surface, gathering data on minerals and even water in the form of ice. 11 years after the Chandrayaan-1 mission, which placed a probe in orbit around the moon, India aims to become the 4th country to send a mission to the moon's surface after the US, the Soviet Union, and China. But India's ambitions don't stop there. They hope the first manned mission to space will take off before 2022. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
hanggang alas 8 ng umaga.
Welcome back. The number of forest fires in Brazil surged in the first 8 months of 2019, according to official data, as President Jair Bolsonaro faces growing criticism over rampant destruction of the Amazon. Nearly 73,000 fires were recorded between January and August, compared with 39,759 in all of 2018, the embattled National Institute for Space Research said late Monday. Now, that is the highest number of forest fires for any year since 2013 and follows 2 years of declines. Forest fires tend to intensify during the dry season, which usually ends in late October or early November, as land is cleared to make way for crops or grazing. The INPE figures show fires have been concentrated in states occupying the Amazon. And the data also comes as Brazil's President Bolsonaro faces growing criticism over his anti-environment rhetoric, which activists blame for emboldening loggers, miners, and farmers in the Amazon. Norway on Thursday joined Germany in halting Amazon protection subsidies, accusing Brazil of turning its back on the fight against deforestation. And wildfires burn more than 471,000 hectares of forests, crops, and grasslands in Bolivia, while one of the fires is approaching the border with Paraguay, according to official sources. While the fire approaches to the border with Paraguay, they fear greater damage because of winds and dry weather. Take a look. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro confirmed that exchanges have been taking place between his government and high officials in Washington, endorsing the statements offered earlier by his counterpart, U.S. President Donald Trump. Take a look.
Confirmo que desde hace meses hay contactos de altos funcionarios del gobierno de Estados Unidos de Donald Trump y del gobierno bolivariano que yo presido, bajo mi autorización expresa, directa, varios contactos, varias vías, para buscar regular este conflicto, para buscar un proceso de regularización del conflicto con el imperio norteamericano. Si el presidente Donald Trump algún día quisiera hablar seriamente y hacer un plan para regularizar y resolver este conflicto, estamos preparados siempre para dialogar.
I'm going to be kind. Certain people in the media are trying to build up.
Hours earlier, President Trump told reporters at the White House that, quote, "We're talking at a very high level," and that representatives at different levels of Venezuela were involved. Venezuela has been in recession for 5 years. Food and medicine shortages are widespread. Tensions between Washington and Caracas have escalated since earlier this year, when Juan Guaido, who is head of the opposition-controlled National Assembly, used provisions of the Constitution to declare himself president. The U.S. has been pressuring Maduro through sanctions into acquiescing to opposition demands to step down and hold new presidential elections, something he has steadfastly refused to do. In other news, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte resigned after lashing out at far-right Interior Minister Matteo Salvini for pursuing his own interests by pulling the plug on the government coalition. Take a look.
Il Presidente della Repubblica Sergio Mattarella ha ricevuto questa sera al Palazzo del Quirinale il Presidente del Consiglio dei Ministri, professor avvocato Giuseppe Conte. il quale ha rassegnato le dimissioni del governo da lui presieduto. Il Presidente della Repubblica ha preso atto delle dimissioni e ha invitato il governo a curare il disbrigo degli affari correnti.
Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte resigned on Tuesday after lashing out at far-right Interior Minister Matteo Salvini. In his speech before the Senate, Conte took aim at his Interior Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, calling him irresponsible for engineering a political crisis for personal and party interests. Salvini, emboldened by his party's strong showing in May's EU elections, has increasingly positioned himself as Italy's main leader on the world stage. The move also leaves the Eurozone's third-largest economy in a political vacuum until President Sergio Mattarella decides whether to form a new coalition or call an election after talks with parties in the coming days. President Sergio Mattarella charged Conte with heading a caretaker administration after he handed in his resignation, pending consultations on a new government, which was set to begin at 1400 GMT Wednesday. And Center Stage have been presenting theatrical plays with themes that help people live on today's world. In fact, performing arts, they say, can help one pick up lessons where you can overcome or cope with anxieties. In Toronto, a stage play entitled Story of Scar tells the life of a 16-year-old challenged by her appearance during her adolescent years. Alisa De Jesus reports.
Here in Toronto, Canada, at the Midtown Toronto Chapel is the premiere of the INC Center Stage Story of Scar, a rewriting to the IN Cinema original short film produced by the members of the Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, that depicts the value of friendship, Christian brotherhood, and strong faith before God while overcoming one's own insecurities and imperfections.
IN Cinema is a film production of the Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, with focus on entertaining, inspiring, and educating. IN Center Stage is a theater production version that includes live music and performances.
Like any creative production project, it's a step-by-step process. So first we had to write a script, and we had to keep revising and revising the script until it's ready, and then we had to audition across the District of Greater Toronto and found the actors, and then pretty much putting together all the production crew team along the way. It took us about 6 months to put this production together, and it's been a challenging but really rewarding journey for not just for me but for every single member of the team. So yeah, it was good.
Story of Scar tells of the life of a 16-year-old challenged by her appearance during her adolescent years.
The darkness in our lives, we do go through it. We go through with it sometimes, you know. So for Scarlett, my character, she is very faithful. She has this strong faith, and she, with the help of Dylan, her best friend, people from the church, her family, she was able to, you know, see the light out of that darkness. So I feel like for everyone going through anything right now, going through sadness, grief, all trials in this world, because, you know, it is really dark in here. So we need to hold on to our faith more stronger, so we could be able to see our path clear, just like the prayer, right? Yeah.
It was a long ride. What was it? 4 months?
Yes.
4 months of every weekend coming here to the chapel to practice over and over and over again.
And even on the weekdays, we had
even
like
on
separate
the weekend, yeah, even on the
rehearsals on our locales.
Yeah, just Scarlett and we've created such amazing bonds throughout this play. Like half of the people here, I didn't initially know, and I'm just friends with everyone now. It's new friendships has arisen from this, and now that it's all over, we still have those friends from all across the district.
Reporting from Toronto, Canada, this is Eliza De Jesus, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Eliza. We'll be back with more news right after this break. Stay tuned.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
Tungkulin ng MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all.
Oops, rated PG. Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCV, rated responsable.
For Business News, this is Cesar Vallejos. Protecting the small and medium enterprises from natural disasters is key to a sustainable value chain and attaining business continuity. The SM Group said empowering supply chain is particularly close to our hearts because SM's roots were born from our father's entrepreneurial spirit. Hans T.C., director at mall operator SM Prime Holdings and advisor to the C family's holding firm SM Investments Corporation, said. C is the SMIC's appointed advisor who participated in the United Nations Global Compact Global Reporting Initiative Regional Sustainability Summit held in Manila on Tuesday. SM Prime has also provided free storage data to serve as the repository for documents essential to early recovery and business continuity. To date, there are over 1,500 SMEs which have availed themselves of this service. The SM Group works with nearly 25,000 small and medium enterprises, both directly and indirectly, representing 27% of total SMEs in the Philippines. There are SM small tenants, traders, and suppliers mainly in retail. SM has integrated 3 platforms in terms of its operations and sustainability to include investing 10% of its capital expenditure on disaster-resilient features depending on a mall's existing hazards, capacity building, and collaboration and public-private partnerships at the global, regional, and national levels. C said, through these efforts, we seal our commitment in creating a more equitable and progressive environment for business partnerships for generations to come. Investments approved by the Board of Investments in January to July may have expanded by nearly 1/4, but the figure is not even 1/3 of the agency's target of 1 trillion pesos for 2019. Figures from the BOI show that the agency's approvals in the 7-month period rose by 24% to 312.8 billion from last year's 2.32 billion. In spite of the growth, the agency is nowhere near its objective of hitting the 1 trillion mark this year. However, Trade Undersecretary and BOI Managing Head Seferino Rodolfo is unfazed by this, saying the investment body has piles of projects waiting to be approved. In a statement on Tuesday, Rodolfo said capital inflow to the Philippines is still increasing in the face of a tariff war between the United States and China and a trade conflict between Japan and South Korea. The collapse of the multilateral trading system may be taking a toll on many economies, but the Philippines is an exception to the rule, he argued. He said, our investments are still growing amid the international tensions. We still have a lot of pending projects that need thorough study and evaluation. I am still confident that by the end of the year, we are going to attain our target despite the global uncertainties. Investments from local firms accounted for the lion's share of 77.74% or 243.2 billion of total approvals during the period. Foreign capital made up 22.25% or 69.6 billion. We assure foreign investors that the Philippines is a safe haven for their investments and they should take advantage of our very strong domestic demand and commit to long-term deals, Rodolfo added. Among overseas sources, Singapore topped the list with 35.4 billion to lead the Netherlands with 9.2 billion, Thailand with 8.6 billion pesos, Japan with 5.8 billion, and US with 2.4 billion pesos. Trade Secretary and BOI Chairman Ramon Lopez is expecting foreign investments to grow as a result of the passage of several business measures, including the Ease of Doing Business Law and the innovative Startup Act. U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday insisted that a recession, a potentially dangerous blow to his re-election next year, is not in the cards. But he indicated he's preparing just in case. Growth has been on the upside for a decade now, and Trump happily takes credit for low unemployment and what he repeatedly claims to be the hottest economy in the world. But he doesn't want to discuss accumulating evidence of bad news. An alarm bell went off in the U.S. Treasury bond market last week when 10-year bond yields briefly fell below the yields offered on a 2-year bond, the inverse of what normally happens. The so-called inverted yield curve is a statistical phenomenon that has previously been an accurate herald of eventual recession. And despite claiming that nothing's broken, Trump confirmed Tuesday that he's rummaging around the toolbox. He told reporters he is considering a cut to capital gains taxes by indexing them to inflation.
Well, you know, we've been talking about indexing for a long time, and many people like indexing, and it can be done very simply. It can be done directly by me. And so we've been looking at that. As you probably have heard, I can do it directly. I think the word recession is a word that's inappropriate because it's just a word that the certain people, I'm going to be kind, certain people in the media are trying to build up because they'd love to see a recession. We're very far from a recession. In fact, if the Fed would do its job, I think would have a tremendous spurt of growth. A tremendous spurt. The Fed is psychologically very important. Less so actually, but very psychological. The Fed should be cutting, and I would say they should say at a minimum 100 basis points over a period of time, not at one time, but over a period of time.
Apple launched a smartphone generation credit card in the U.S. and moved closer to hitting the hot streaming television market with a new subscription service. The moves come as Apple shifts to emphasize digital content and other services to offset a pullback in the once sizzling smartphone market. Arrival of an Apple card tailored particularly for iPhone fans came with reports that the technology titan is keen to launch its TV Plus streaming service before Disney goes live with arrival in November. Apple TV Plus will debut with a small selection of original content and a possible subscription price of $9.99, Bloomberg reported, citing people familiar with the matter. The price would be more than that charged by powerhouse players Netflix and Amazon Prime, as well as the announced subscription cost of a Disney Plus service to launch on November 12. California-based Apple did not immediately respond to a request for comment about TV Plus. Apple has reportedly allocated more than $6 billion for TV Plus original shows, a small number of which would be available when the service goes live.
Great stories can move us and inspire us. They can surprise us.
Once a pioneer in cashless transactions, Japan is now lagging behind as the world's biggest economies increasingly embrace electronic payments because its aging population still prefers physical money. 4 out of 5 purchases are still made with cash in Japan despite its reputation as a futuristic and innovative nation. In South Korea, some 90% of transactions are digital, while Sweden aims to be a cashless society as early as 2023. But in Japan, where crime and counterfeiting is virtually non-existent, so people feel more comfortable carrying cash, consumer response has been sluggish. At Katsuyuki Hasegawa's bike repair shop, customers are invited to settle their bills using PayPay, a tie-up between SoftBank and Yahoo, using a QR code via their smartphones. But only 2 or 3 people a week are using the service.
お客さんの反応は、実はそんなにキャッシュレスあんまり言われたことがなくて、というのもやっぱりご年配の方がまあ結構多いのと、あとまあちっちゃなお店なんで、そうですね、まあ多分現金で皆さんどちらかというと先に現金で支払ってくれますかね。まあお客さんが便利になるのはまあいいことなのかなとは思います。まあただ、そうですね。まあ現金のやり取りの方がまあ個人的には好きですけどね。こうやっぱりキャッシュレスはまだちょっとこうお金の動きがちょっと見えにくいというか、大きなところとか、まあやっぱりお客さんが多いところになればなるほどやっぱキャッシュレスの方がスピーディーにできるので、まあそういう面ではいいんじゃないかなと思いますけれども、で、まあ、この街とかだととってももうなんて言いますかね、昭和レトロな街でゆっくりなんですよね。それこそおじいちゃんおばあちゃんなんかもう本当におしゃべりしながらお金を出すくらいの感じで、そんなにスピードを求めて、
大体皆さん分かんないからっておっしゃって、あるのは電子マネーがあるのが分かってても、そのシステムを知ろうとはあまりしないですね。現金で払えるなら現金でっていう感じです。ペイペイさんの場合は7月の前にはドラッグストアでだけ使えるその 10% 還元っていうのをやってて、やっぱり自分もユーザーなんですけど、じゃあこの機会に使おうと思いますし、その対象のお店を変えてそのキャンペーンをしてくれることでどんどん使う人が増えてくると思っています。
This is a serious challenge in a country with more than 200,000 ATMs and where most small shops will only take cash to avoid high transaction costs. Many were also put off when retail giant 7i Holdings suffered a hacking attack immediately after launching a new QR code payment system and was forced to scrap the scheme. The Japanese government is hoping to seize on a wave of tourists expected to flood in for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics to double the amount of electronic payments to 40% by 2025. It also plans to introduce a points system to partially reward customers paying by cashless means as a way to mitigate a controversial hike in consumption tax from 8% to 10% from October. And that's it for business news. I am Cesar Vallejos. I'm 1 with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay tuned.
Watch your favorite Net25 shows on OSN channel 725, same day as the Philippines. Watch your favorite Net25 shows live and on demand anytime, anywhere on any mobile devices on OSN Play.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Inspired to help people and alleviate poverty around the world, the Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo, have been doing aid to humanity events worldwide. Recently, it launched a United States tour of this said activity. Watch this.
Taking place this year is the 10th anniversary of the ascension of Brother Eduardo to the leadership of the church. And under his leadership, the church only moves forward, higher, and with greater vigor.
When we look back at May 2019, during the Aid to Humanity tour throughout Canada of the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, the charitable institution of the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ, that marked a great chapter between Canada and the FYM Foundation's efforts in caring for people and helping those in need. To recall, 7,000 care packages filled with food staples and personal hygiene items were offered to families and individuals in need in 6 major cities across Canada. And 36 community organizations were also gifted monetary donations to help support the work they do for families in need. Fast forward 2019, the FYM Foundation continues its global humanitarian efforts with its tour throughout the United States, spanning 13 days in 6 different cities throughout the country. The first stop is here in Brooklyn, New York.
By the direction and the compassion of the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo B. Manalo, and that he commissioned our beloved brother, Gleserio B. Santos, who came here all the way from the Philippines to help us at this humanitarian effort through the FYM Foundation.
I am super elated, surprised. I did not know that I was going to receive this. We really appreciate this. I can't thank you enough.
Itong ginagawa natin sa US na ito na tinatawag nating Aid to Humanity Tour US ay sa kapasya ng ating tagapamahalang pangkalatan ng kapatid na Eduardo Manalo. Nagsimula ito sa Canada na kung saan ay sa iba't ibang dako ng Canada ay nagsaliwa tayo ng Aid to Humanity.
Today, here at the Church of Christ of Temple Hills, Maryland, the Church of Christ and the FYM Foundation continue to fight to alleviate hunger and poverty amongst the undeserved, vulnerable, and economically challenged individuals. Maryland is one of the smallest of the 50 states, but it is one of the most densely populated, sometimes called America in miniature, because so much diversity is found within its 10,000 plus square miles of land and water, set apart from the other states because of its rich American history, but still shares the same socio-economic battles as any other state in America.
Finally, I want to take a moment to celebrate Brother Eduardo Manalo for his 10-year anniversary in leadership. His labor, leadership, and his ministerial service is appreciated and celebrated from all of us throughout Prince George's County.
Today marks the third stop of the FYM Foundation's Aid to Humanity U.S. Tour. After visiting Brooklyn, New York, and Temple Hills, Maryland, we're here at Othello Park in Seattle, Washington, wherein the FYM Foundation and the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ extends its appreciation to the public officials and its help to the people, especially the youth of Seattle and local agencies.
Having attended today, I think it's a fun event, and I really appreciated being invited and representing our department in this great function over here for the community. And they should attend this community because not only for the free stuff they're getting, great stuff for the back to school stuff, which helps all our kids, but also to enjoy, the people that are here.
The Church of Christ and the FYM Foundation are stepping up to help tackle poverty in the city of Memphis. Local residents were treated to Goodwill care packages that included groceries, such as canned goods, non-perishable food items, and some household essentials. 5 local community organizations also benefited from a $5,000 grant from the FYM Foundation, namely the Porter Leith Orphanage Memphis, the Memphis Police Department Crump Station, the Memphis Firefighters Association Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Memphis, and the Booker T. Washington High School.
Itong ginagawa natin sa US na ito na tinatawag natin Aid to Humanity Tour US ay sa kapasya ng ating tagapamahalang pangkalatan ng kapatid na Eduardo Manalo. Nagsimula ito sa Canada na kung saan ay sa iba't ibang dako ng Canada ay nagsagawa tayo ng Aid to Humanity. Ang batayan kung bakit natin ito ginagawa ay yung utos ng ating Panginoon Diyos na ibigin mo ang Panginoon Diyos na yun ang pangunahing utos. At ikano, ang pinakamahalagang utos ay yung ibigin mo ang iyong kapwa. Ang pag-ibig sa Diyos, gaya ng ating alam, yung pagsunod sa kanyang mga utos. Gagawa ka ng paraan para masamba siya, maglingkod ka sa Panginoon Diyos. Yun ang pag-ibig sa Kanya. Pero yun namang pag-ibig sa kapwa, yung kapag ang iyong kapwa ay nandun sa kalagayang nangangailangan, lalo na yung mga mahihirap, lalo na yung mga nagiging biktima ng mga kalamidad, at iniabot mo ang iyong kamay para tulungan sila, yun ang tunay na pag-ibig sa kapwa. Ayon sa pasya ng kapatid Eduardo na sa bawat bansa, ang totoo, sa susunod na buwan ay maglilingap tayo doon sa Africa at pagkatapos ay maglilingap tayo sa India. Kaya sana ipanalangin natin, uloobin ng Diyos na marami pang bansa ang marating. Gaya dito sa Amerika, nakaling tayo sa Brooklyn, New York, pagkatapos sa Maryland, Washington, naglingap din tayo sa Seattle, Washington, galing tayo sa Memphis, Tennessee. At ngayon, narito tayo sa Oakland, California, para madama ng tao na seryosong Iglesia ni Cristo sa pagtulong sa kapwa-tao.
And even in California, California is failing to get most of its youngest residents off to a healthy and productive start, and is particularly falling short in serving kids from low-income families.
There's a lot of people here, unfortunate people that don't have, things, and, you have the church that comes in and helps out, and it's really, really beneficial.
Mayor of Oakland, it was my privilege to honor some of the great leaders of Iglesia ni Cristo, Brother Manalo and Brother Santos, and to really recognize 105 years that this church has been serving really the whole world through incredible generosity and faith. The Felix Y. Manalo Foundation is a role model for other nonprofits and also churches that have got to reach out into the community to be of service, to live God's words around compassion and giving of yourself to others. And today is an incredible show of those values. Those values that we have as Oaklanders are so in line with the values of this church and this foundation. To really look at helping those who are more vulnerable and to be of service and to join together to create a tremendous sense of community. By expressing love for your neighbor, by giving what little you have and sharing it with others, that act is like a stone thrown into a pond. The ripples will go forever. They will spread. And the love and generosity that you have performed today in this beautiful park in Deep East Oakland on this beautiful sunny day, the memory of that will live in this community. And for that reason, people will feel loved and taken care of. And that is a great gift.
You guys are giving the church a good name. That at the end of the day, what it means to be a community around Jesus is to be a lavishly generous community. And so thank you so much for embodying that to all of you on stage and all of you out there.
And with churches like Iglesia ni Cristo, we're able to do this, and we're so thankful, and we thank God for the work that you all do around the world. Thank you so much.
Ang totoo, hindi lamang ito lingap na namibigay tayo ng pagkain at iba't ibang pangailangan, kundi ang proyekto ni Ka Eduardo, mabigyan sila ng hanap buhay na gaya ng ating ginagawa sa Africa, sa Pilipinas, at sa iba't ibang bansa. Ay nagtatayo tayo ng mga eco-farming, mga garment factory, at iba't ibang mga hanap buhay Ngayon ang pinagsisikapan ng kapatid Eduardo Manalo na maibigay sa mga mahihirap. Kapag mayroong panawagan ang ating kapatid Eduardo Manalo, yung kanyang mga proyektong inilulong sa iglesia, ay magtulong-tulong tayo. Magkaisa ang lahat na tumulong lalo na sa gawaing pagpapalaganap. At ang isa rito ay yung pagtulong sa kapwa-tao. Mabigkisana tayo sapagkat ang gusto ni Ka Eduardo, hindi lang makatulong tayo sa tao, kundi alam natin na pag ginagawa natin ito ay maghahatid sa atin sa buhay na walang hanggan at kaligtasang hinihintay natin.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, I'm Alma Angeles. Always one with 25. Good night.